How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Timeless Movie Podcast, episode number 58. My name is Victor Vasquez. Appreciate you coming back and listening. On this week's podcast, we're going to be talking about the new film that was directed by Matthew Vaughn, who has directed many films like Kick-Ass or X-Men First Class and The Kingsman. And this week, we're going to be going through his new movie called Argylle. It has a star-studded cast. As soon as I saw the first trailer, it kind of intrigued me in regards to okay, what is this about? It looks like it's going to be a comedy, but it also has a lot of different types of action sequences. So it immediately kind of got my attention. And then I found out it was more of kind of like that spy type of a thriller movie. Let's say not a spy thriller, but it has kind of influences of the spy genre, but much more comedic than you would expect. So let's go ahead and dive in. Before I ended up watching the movie, again, some of the details that I kind of caught was the star-studded cast that it had. You see Bryce Dallas Howard, you have Sam Rockwell, you have Henry Cavill, you have John Cena, Dua Lipa, Samuel Jackson, Bryan Cranston, the names go on, but that immediately kind of got my attention. When you have a film that has so many different stars and you see that, okay, what did they all kind of agree to? What did they all see? They must have all appreciated what the director had as a vision for this film, because you have so many different faces that you recognize. You're like, okay, this is going to be super interesting. How are these characters going to play off of each other? So that was definitely one of my biggest kind of, reasons why I really wanted to go to the theaters and watch this movie. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in to my overall thoughts about Argylle now that I got a chance to watch it. Ended up seeing it opening night in AMC Dolby Cinema, and I gotta say that I really enjoyed the movie. It was a very fun experience. Again, like I mentioned, the genre of this is kind of like a spy with action and comedy all kind of bunched into one. And I thought Matthew Vaughn and the team that created this film did a really good job. They showed a lot of great visuals. They were able to kind of, again, highlight the different types of interactions that these different types of characters would play within this film. And it had very interesting concepts. So let's dive into some of my pros. And before I do that, I do want to call out spoiler warning for anybody that has not seen Argylle. Again, I'm going to give my kind of overall pros and cons, give you whether I would recommend it. So again, if you have not seen the movie, definitely go ahead and check it out. Or if you have seen it, well, go ahead and let me know down below in the comments what you thought about the movie. All right, well, let's go ahead and dive in. My first pro of Argylle is the concept, I think, of how this movie is kind of laid out in front of us. What it revolves around is Ellie Conway, played by Bryce Dallas Howard. She is playing an author for different types of spy novels that she creates. And so she is basically the creator of Argylle. Agent Argylle is like a fictional character in this world of the Argylle film. And she's basically set up 5 different books that's kind of telling the story of Agent Argylle. And again, she goes to specific details and to specific kind of lengths of knowing about the espionage world. How she knows? She says she does a lot of research. But as the story unfolds, she gets looped into a real life espionage that's going on, and she again gets involved with like some of these villains. She gets involved with other agents like Sam Rockwell's character Aiden, and again, she's basically kind of living what she has written for the majority of her life. And so how that plays out is really cool, because it kind of goes back and forth between, you see acts and scenes from the Argylle book series, which Henry Cavill plays, again, this fictional character called Agent Argylle. And then you see Ellie Conway go through these similar, situations where okay, well, what would Argylle do in this situation, right? And then she's kind of going through that same kind of a pace as well. So again, to me, how the story was unfolding as you were watching the movie is actually my first pro. I thought it was very unique, very different. They would cut between being in the fictional book world and then cutting back to Ellie in the real world and what she would do in those situations, or how would she find evidence and try to track down what the villains or the antagonists of this film were looking for. So again, that was very unique, very different, and I really appreciated it as I was watching the movie. My second pro is the action sequences and the fight choreography that was done in this film. I thought it was, again, pretty spot on. Now, I'm not going to say that it's the best action sequences I've ever seen, but considering that there's a lot of different action and spy movies that are done out there, and whether you have your John Wicks, Mission Impossibles, or whatever type of movie, there's different types of action sequences and choreography that are done. But here, it was a lot of great hand-to-hand combat, a lot of, really well done choreography. But what I appreciated most was that there wasn't like this shaky camera. I really do not like shaky cameras when you see different action scenes. Again, it feels like when they do that, they're trying to kind of mimic like, hey, this is what it would feel like if you were in that fight. But to me, it just takes away from the fight. It makes it very confusing because you're trying to follow the action, but you can't really because the camera keeps moving and shaking. So what I appreciated the most about Argylle is the team was able to keep that like sense of, hey, you're in the action, but we're gonna give you every single punch, every single kick, every single move that gets done by these actors or characters or stunt doubles, whoever performed them, but they performed them to a T, and it was really well done. Again, I appreciated everything that Sam Rockwell did. I was very surprised at how he was able to pull off a lot of the hand-to-hand combat. Even Bryce Dallas Howard as Ellie Conway, she got involved in the action when it came to fight scenes, and she did really well. So again, another pro for me, and what I, again, appreciated and kind of caught me off guard was how great the choreography and the fight scenes were in Argylle. My last pro for the film Argylle is actually the transitions that this film did, especially in the first and the kind of like the beginning of the second act. A lot of the transitions that they would perform were very clean. There was times where you would kind of zoom in on Argylle's face, which is played by Henry Cavill, and then it would go all the way to his lips, and then it then transitioned over to the lips of Ellie Conway, and then it would kind of zoom back out. Then there was other different cuts of like jumping from one city to another. There's also, specific types of cuts where, like I mentioned before, when Ellie was going through this specific plot of taking part or getting looped into these espionage types of situations, sometimes it would cut between Henry Cavill as Agent Argylle punching somebody, and then it would flip back and transition over in the middle of that action sequence to Sam Rockwell's Aiden. And so I thought how they did that and how they cut those transitions was done very, very well, and it was excellent to me. Like it was very smooth. You didn't see like that like edited way too crazy where like, oh, okay, I can see like where they cut that. No, sometimes you just see Henry Cavill throw a punch, and then Sam Rockwell just kind of comes back out of that punch, and he's trying to talk to Ellie in the middle of that specific sequence. So just again, I thought that the cuts and the editing that the team performed on this movie, especially for those types of sequences when you're switching back between a fictional world and the real world in this Argylle universe, I thought that was exceptional. So really good job to the team. All right, now that I've kind of covered some of my pros, I do want to move over to some of the cons that I had with this film. Again, I really dug what Matthew Vaughn and the team were able to create. I will say, though, that where the film kind of not lost me, but it dropped in regards to like how much I was enjoying it was the end. The third act of the film I actually felt was a little too long. Now, if you've listened to some of my podcasts in the past, you know that I actually really love long movies. I like watching like Oppenheimer, which hit like 2 hours and like 50 minutes or 2 hours and 45 minutes. Endgame, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's timeless to me. It's about 3 hours. I love watching Endgame, and I've watched it multiple times. And it just, those types of movies kept me engaged throughout the time. And Argylle was doing that at the beginning. The first act, second act, I was intrigued. I liked how everything was going, the twists and turns that were occurring. But then all of a sudden, the third act, it got way too long. It was dragged out a little bit too much. There started becoming too many twists and turns for the sake of it. And it actually took me out of it just a little bit. It was like, okay, well, I feel like, yeah, the movie can maybe cut right here. Like, oh no, it's still going. Okay, maybe it's going to end right here. No, it's still going. Another action sequence. And so, I don't know. I felt like there was a lot that was kind of added to the film that, again, maybe to the director's eyes and to the producer's eyes, maybe it felt like, yeah, we're kind of adding color to this universe of Argylle. To me, I felt like there was a lot of scenes where we could have cut a little bit of that fat. Specifically, like, you had these different types of dancing sequences, or you had these different types of action sequences where like they're dancing as they're knocking off these different types of thugs. To me, I felt like there was a lot of those opportunities where maybe this action sequence took a little too long and we could cut maybe like a minute of it. Maybe this dance sequence, we don't have to show the full thing. Maybe we just got to straight to the point. And again, I'm not a director. I'm not a producer. I'm pretty sure from the director's point of view, he's just kind of trying to build out this world and try to give it some type of color, give the characters something to kind of believe in and kind of look at. But Again, to me, I just felt like the third act was just a little too long. If it was just a kind of maybe, if we cut something in regards to make it like maybe 10 to 15 minutes quicker, I thought the movie would have just hit on like, and just would have gotten such a high note and then ended, and it just kind of would have left you with a more satisfying kind of a feeling. Instead, as soon as the movie ended, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, finally, right? I felt like I already knew that it should have ended a while ago, but it just kind of kept going and going and going. So again, that's just my personal opinion. Maybe as you guys watch the film, maybe you have something different, but that's just to me is how I kind of felt as I was watching the third act. And again, it just kind of took out a little bit of the energy that I was kind of feeling as I was watching the movie. Only other con that I have was just little nitpicks here and there on some of the visuals and the VFX. There was certain times where you can kind of tell like, okay, that's not as real as what everything else is going on in the setting where these characters are in. But again, that didn't take me out of the film. Again, I just noticed that. I just pick and choose like, oh, okay, yeah, there's this scene where, Ellie is using her ice skating abilities, and she's kind of doing it over this kind of crude oil. Some of the crude oil that didn't look as real, but again, just small nitpicks. I'm not going to drill the movie for that much. Again, it's just little things that I noticed as I was watching it. Overall, I still had a lot of fun watching Argylle. Again, the cast was really just all super star-stacked. They all did really well together. There was a lot of different moments between the different characters like Bryan Cranston, as well as Samuel L. Jackson's character. So again, a lot of good stuff that I still enjoyed. Again, the third act kind of takes me a little bit out of it. It kind of lets me I'm like riding on a high, and then it kind of just dips a little bit too much for me in the third act. But overall, I still enjoyed all the action sequences. I still enjoyed the twists and turns that this spy action comedy movie was trying to throw out to me. And again, the overall concept of like what they were showing us, it was very unique. Again, you're watching almost like two stories unfold, but they're both kind of very similar. You're watching Argylle in the, in the book universe kind of see their story play out, but you're also seeing Ellie seeing her real life play out as well. So really good stuff. Again, I would still recommend it if you like these types of movies, especially when it combines like this action and comedy together. I think it's still really well done. And so if you definitely like those types of genres and those types of movies, and if you like any of the actors in that come out in this film, definitely go check it out in theaters. I think it's a really well done movie, and it's also funny. A lot of great moments that are between Bryce Dallas Howard and Sam Rockwell's characters. So again, my recommendation, definitely go check it out in theaters. It is still a very funny movie. My personal opinion, the third act kind of messes with my head at least. But let me know what you think about it. If you've had a chance to see it, down below in the comments, let me know what you thought and if you enjoyed your experience of Argylle. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and jump into my next segment discussing the favorite performance that I had watching Argylle. To me, it was between two characters that I actually enjoyed the most of, which was either Aiden, played by Sam Rockwell's character. He was the main, espionage agent. He at first comes out with like this long hair and he's got a long beard, and you're like, this is going to be the agent that's going to be, trying to save Ellie. And it's just like all these different types of things that he ends up kind of going through, but he's such a hilarious character. At the end of the day, though, after watching Argylle, I really got to say that my favorite performance was Bryce Dallas Howard as Ellie Conway. She actually had such a cool type of a way to kind of play her character, because at the beginning of the film, she is just playing a spy novelist who doesn't really know anything about the espionage world. She just does a lot of research. And then you see her kind of, again, as she gets looped into these situations where a agency that's trying to like control different types of documentation that is looking for a master file, she ends up getting into the crosshairs of this group. And so, she gets involved in all these situations. And then as the story unfolds, you start noticing, okay, here's why she knows so much about the espionage world. And it gets, you get a final reveal as to who Agent Argylle really is, where she got inspired by that character. Again, I don't want to spoil it too much because I want you guys to enjoy that experience, but you get to see Ellie kind of transform as the movie goes on. And then by the end of it, she's a completely different person. She's serious. She knows exactly what she needs to do to again, save herself as well as save Aiden. And again, she does all this craziness in the movie. And again, it's a complete 180 in regards to how she started the movie. So really good stuff by Bryce Dallas Howard. I also love her facial reactions at the beginning of the movie. She has these great kind of like eye-popping moments where she's freaked out, she's scared, she doesn't know what she's doing, she doesn't understand why this is happening to her specifically. And again, anything that she kind of does with her face in regards to how she's reacting to things, or how she's just trying to like terrified in regards to the moment that she's dealing with. But also, again, later on in the film, how serious she gets, how again, she's confident. She knows exactly what her role is in this kind of espionage world. And again, where she's gotten that inspiration from makes it a lot easier for her to be able to pull off what she's able to pull off in this film. So again, my favorite performance, Bryce Dallas Howard as Ellie Conway. Really good stuff. And again, I really enjoyed her parts of the film. All right, I think this would be a good opportunity to then talk about my favorite moment or scene in the movie. I gotta say, it is an action scene. No surprise here. I'm really big into action movies. I love watching these types of genre of films. But to me, again, the action sequences are really cool. But this actually kind of correlates with my pro that I mentioned at the overall thoughts section of this podcast. And what ends up happening is, at the first act, you see Aiden interact with Ellie for the first time. They're on a train. He's trying to protect her. Ellie doesn't know any better. She doesn't know why people would be looking for her. And in that moment, Aiden ends up getting into a fight with these different types of thugs that come after Ellie. And what's so cool is that this is kind of where it connects to the concepts of the Agent Argylle books that Ellie is writing. As you see Aiden fight these different types of thugs, this is where you start seeing the nice cuts between Agent Argylle and Agent Aiden. And you start seeing, again, like both of them basically do the same exact thing. You see Agent Argylle kind of wink and smile and be smooth looking at Ellie Conway. And then you cut back to, you see Aiden, and Aiden looks like he's struggling, like he's like out of breath. He's trying to do his best to kind of knock out these thugs. And it's just so cool because that kind of sequence lasts almost, I want to say about maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Maybe I'm over exaggerating, but that whole 2 to 3 minute sequence was really cool. Again, a lot of different types of fight choreography and action scenes. But what was even better was the transitions and cuts between Henry Cavill's Agent Argylle and Aiden, played by Sam Rockwell. It was so cool to see them kind of interchange between the two. And again, it just very smooth. Different opportunities where like you would see one of them duck down and punch, and then it would cut, and then you'd see Sam Rockwell come up again like that. And so it's like, again, I love when camera teams and cinematographers and the directors have that kind of a vision where like you can make a cut very seamless, where it seems like the camera, again, is not moving away. It's not pointing to anywhere else. It's just in one direct shot. You see a cut, boom, and it's either a different image or a different person. So I definitely love that. And that was actually my favorite moments of the movie as well. All right, everybody. Now that we've gotten to the end of the podcast, we're now going to determine whether Argylle is a timeless movie. Again, I really enjoyed watching Argylle. It was a lot of fun. Again, the action was really cool. It was funny. I enjoyed all the characters interacting with each other. The twists and turns, I forgot to mention that as one of my pros, but the twists and turns was awesome in this film because, again, as you're going through, you're trying to figure it out. You're trying to be a detective yourself, and you're kind of seeing these different types of twists and turns that you didn't expect. And I'm like, oh, what? Like, I did not see this character turning as well. So, again, the film has a lot of great ideas and concepts and things that are doing, really good things for it. But to me, at this moment, this film is not timeless. The third act, I think, just sticks out for me as to like something that like I wish they could have just cut a lot of different things and gotten straight to the point of, hey, here's what we wanted to represent. Here's the true Agent Argylle. Here's how Ellie really got to, got inspired to write these books and, have these types of conflicts resolve at the end. But it just kind of, sometimes it just strays on a little bit too long, and it just, again, it takes me a little bit out of the film, and that's unfortunate because I was having a lot of fun through the first and second act, and then as the third act kind of just keeps extending the time, you're like, oh, okay, well when is this really going to wrap up? And so, again, it was unfortunate for me, but overall, again, I'd still recommend this movie to watch. I'm pretty sure I'll still watch it a couple of other times in the future. Again, it just has a lot of great moments. But to me, again, it doesn't have that replayability to watch it over and over and over again. Just because of the fact that, again, like there's just things that kind of take me out of it of like, oh, I just kind of wish they cut this or I wish they cut that. And I wish my brain wouldn't kind of go that perspective, but it is what it is. Most importantly, guys, those are just my personal thoughts. I want to know from you, though. what did you think about Argylle? Did you enjoy the movie? Who was your favorite character? What was your favorite moment in the movie? And do you think it's a timeless movie overall? Really want to know your thoughts, so put those down below in the comments. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. My name is Victor Vasquez. This has been episode number 58 of the Timeless Movie Podcast. Make sure to check out next week's episode as we cover a new movie that I watch in theaters and decide whether it is timeless. All right, everybody. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your week.